What is up, everybody? How we doing? How we feeling? Welcome to another episode of the Final Vibe podcast. My name is Kevin Reap, and alongside me is my co-host, Andrew White. Andrew, are you ready for episode 28?
Kevin, I couldn't be more ready for episode 28. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Final Vibe is all about pursuit of legacy, and this podcast explores all aspects of life and legacy through discussions with all walks of life, but not today. Today is a solo episode featuring just you and I, and we're going to do a deep dive into Final Vibe. We're going to be answering the big questions, the what, the why, and the how you can have your own Final Vibe. And I think we both have some notes. You've got some juicy looking notes over there.
We've got some notes, we've got some ideas, and we're going to go off the cuff a little bit.
Of course we will.
We're going to see where things go.
We will see where they go. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. But before we do that, let's run over a few updates.
I'd love to.
Real quick. The leather journals that we have mentioned in the past, still in stock. You can see pictures of them on our Instagram. But if you're looking for a Christmas present, we still can get this to you before Christmas if you're listening to this on Tuesday, December 15th. So if you're looking for something, it comes with some moleskin notebooks. It's a really clean, classy journal that will last a whole long time.
It's a really classy gift, and people are listening who haven't done a lick of Christmas shopping yet.
It's true. And they're thinking, wow, I probably should actually check that out.
And they're like, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
it's a classy gift. It's a legacy-based gift. I'm going to look really smooth gifting this to somebody.
No one will have any idea when you bought it. They'll think you've had it forever.
It's this cool new trendy brand. Yeah, it's called Final Vibe. I don't know. Check it out.
I'll throw a sticker in the box too.
Yeah.
You don't even have to.
Complimentary sticker from Kevin and me. Forgive my grammar. Me and Kevin.
Second update, Spotify playlist has been updated.
Santa Claus?
Santa Claus is coming to town. Our good friend Josh Mydell, a Spotify playlist master. He's got some of the biggest playlists on Spotify. And I put that on the website. It's not a false statement.
This is not a drill.
Yeah. He's
70,000, I think, on one of his playlists.
Yeah, something crazy.
Followers.
Yeah. So Josh hooks us up every few weeks. He updates the Final Vibe Spotify playlist. And for the next few weeks, we have some Christmas music that I think you will enjoy. Give it a listen. There's some songs that you've certainly heard, and there's some other variations to Christmas music that I think you will be jamming to.
I'm a little bit excited. I'll be honest, I haven't tapped into it yet, but I'm thinking maybe tomorrow in the weight room, that's my shot.
We cleaned the house yesterday for probably 10 hours.
So sorry to hear that.
Just on repeat over and over. This is the second time we've cleaned the house, by the way, since COVID hit. Second time we've done a deep clean, big recycle run, big donation run. I don't know where the stuff came from.
You just accumulate it.
Well, I don't think we bought any of it. We were done 6 months ago, and we're like, this is good.
It's the gnomes.
Yeah,
they're bringing it into your house.
They probably are.
That's good, though. Way to keep your house clean.
Yeah, we'll do it again in a few months, probably. Last update, newsletter. If you haven't subscribed and you want to get some Final Vibe in your inbox, finalvibe.com/newsletter is where you can sign up for that free email that will hit you with every now and then with some high value information. But those are all the updates that I have.
Beautiful.
Let's jump into
it. Kevin, one of the most common questions, concerns, doubts, criticisms, critiques we get from people who are interacting with Final Vibe is, I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it. So here we are about to address exactly what it is, because on some level, I understand where they're coming from. I don't get it. What is Final Vibe? What is this last vibe thing that you are preaching to us? At the same time, I want to flick some people on the forehead and say, don't make it so hard. Don't make it so complicated, because Final Vibe is just a lifestyle brand, and it's centered around being legacy-minded. It's centered around living a life of purpose, excellence, all these things. It doesn't have to be complicated. What do you think, Kevin? Are people making it too complicated?
I think it's easy to make something like this complicated because it is a big topic. It's a big thing to think about. But at the end of the day, the only thing you can do about your Final Vibe is to take one little bite at a time as you try to devour whatever it is. So yes, it's easy to overcomplicate it. But at the end of the day, what we've tried to do months ago at this point, during the pandemic, we sat down and we thought it would be special to create a lifestyle brand that was all about helping people kind of change their perspective and then using that change of perspective to accomplish new things.
Perspective is a great word, and I didn't really attach perspective too much to Final Vibe until we had John Green on, and obviously we named the episode Perspective because he had a great monologue about perspective and how much control you can actually impose into your life just by choosing to think about things one way or the other. And when you think about Final Vibe, it is absolutely 100% due to your perspective.
Yeah, it's been the only word on my mind for the last week. And that's not an exaggeration, I think, because it is every time I've watched every YouTube video, every movie, everything that I've watched, everybody I've seen and encountered, I've been thinking about perspective. How are they approaching this problem, this day, or this whatever it is? And when you think about life that way and go through life that way, it is weird how it just thinking about perspective changes your own perspective.
It really does. And I am super anti hippy dippy stuff. I don't tend to gravitate toward like mental gymnastics or, you can think things into existence or anything like that. It's not something that I gravitate toward naturally. But this idea of perspective really is more than that, because when you choose to think about something from a different angle, you really can attack life differently. And I think John brought that out in a beautiful way, and I'm excited to elaborate it on today's episode. But let's get into the specifics. So, Kevin, one big question is not only what is Final Vibe and how do you do it, but it's like, how do you make it personal? So how can an individual make Final Vibe a reality for their own life?
The way that I recommend starting is to spend time first reflecting on life thus far. Think about and spend more time than you have ever spent doing this, and think about it a little more. This might be uncomfortable, but think about your life and the times that were good, the times that were bad, when you were jiving and when things were going well and you were accomplishing big things, and when things were going bad and you were not. And spend some time reflecting, go through old blog posts, journals, diaries, photos, and just try to spend a little bit of reflection time on remembering. And then I think from there, it is easier to put into perspective what actually matters, what you do remember, what got you up in the mornings, and looking back, like I said, what you remember, what's still top of mind. And then creating a final vibe, which is kind of like AKA a big goal or a desired lifestyle. I feel like you will have a better understanding of what you actually want. And if you're pursuing something that you actually want and don't just want because it looks cool or someone else has it, but it's because it does align with your life, it's much easier, I think, to then take those steps to accomplish whatever that is.
For sure. I think that's really nice because when I look at sort of the notes that I have for this episode and the things I want to share with people, I kind of have 4 steps built out here. And what you just said about just taking time to think and remember and sort of analyze your life up until this point, I think it's really good. It's almost like a really natural prologue to some of the things that I want to say on this episode. And I think that's really good because I'm just going to say it. I think a lot of people, especially Americans, never actually slow down and think about their existence, their reality, their past, their present, their future. I think just there's too much noise. There are too many distractions. We could go down a whole wormhole of why people are so distracted. Maybe people want to be distracted so they don't have to think about reality. But I'm just going to say it. I don't know that you can really do Final Vibe the way we sort of intended it to be done without becoming a little bit of a philosopher, just a little bit. I think we're telling people, think meaningfully about your life and your existence, where you are today and where you're going. I just don't think that you can really exude the brand in autopilot. Am I okay to say that?
Absolutely okay to say that.
Was that too offensive? Was it too aggressive?
I hope not, because I agree with every word of it. I think the philosophy point is very true. And that's something that up until this point in my life, I never thought about to an extent, and even to expanding to philosophers and what they think. And it doesn't even need to be the handful of famous people that will come up if you Google it. But like you said, just existence and thinking about time and what we're doing in family trees and who built all of this stuff that we use all the time and how did we get here? What does all this mean? Who built all this city that we live in? And there's a lot to think about. And I think when you do, again, it goes back to that perspective.
Yeah. It's big. So let's do this. So let's get really specific. I mean, we're just going to come at people right now and give our opinions on how to create your final vibe, because I think it speaks to the question, what is it? I don't get it. Well, we're just going to tell people. We're just going to tell people how to do it. And I think it starts here. So, when I was thinking about this earlier today and in the days leading up to this podcast, I jotted down some notes, and I'm going to sort of say these like they're 4 steps, but they're not like 4 bullet points that I would put in a book or anything like that. They're just sort of 4 thoughts that came to mind as I was thinking about Final Vibe. Number 1 is you need to have a long sit with yourself and just dream and sort of be ridiculous and just think about all these things that perhaps you've ever wanted. And I guess the disclaimer I want to say is, in my mind, this isn't supposed to be a sort of selfish wanting. When I'm picturing an individual crafting or like starting this step 1 of their final vibe, I'm not thinking of the guy who's like, I want all the yachts in the world, I want all the girls in the world, I want all the drugs and the money. I'm not thinking that. But I'm thinking about somebody who's maturely stepped back, zoomed out of their life and thought, this is what I want to be true of my life. And I think people should just be a little bit crazy, dream a little bit. Like, for example, let's get specific. For me, I would love for Final Vibe to be a huge company. I would love for my body recomposition coaching business to flourish. I would love for my YouTube channel to flourish. And I don't honestly say that because I want to be famous or have a lot of clout, but it's because I really get a lot of joy out of pursuing excellence. And I kind of see these projects as a bit of a fun challenge. Because if you can build a successful product, you're learning and you're adapting and you're changing, and that's exciting for me. Now, it's not going to be for everybody. Not everybody's final vibe isn't going to be entrepreneurial, but that's one specific example. So step 1, get out there and dream a little bit. What do you think about that, Kevin?
I like that. I would retweet that.
You'd retweet it? I think it was more than 140 characters.
It probably was a Twitter thread. No, I think that's a fantastic place to start. I know I said with the reflection, but I think dreaming and reflecting, I think that might even be your next point. We won't get in there yet, but that's a great place to start. And that's where it goes back to thinking about then, are you pursuing things that you actually want?
Right.
And I think dreaming is kind of how you realize what you actually want.
So I'm thinking dream, and then the second thing, and this is just like a really, really logical thing. And what we were saying off air is we don't actually want anybody to think that what we're saying here is unique. It's actually not. People have thought this way for years, and people have written books on this for years. I'm sure that hundreds of people just in the year 2020 have published content saying this exact same thing. But nonetheless, it's a good reminder, and it's a part of what Final Vibe is. So step number 2 I have here is once you've had that sort of dreamer's moment and you've thought about it, even for weeks, maybe a month, rewind to reality and just sit in the reality of your current life. And then just jumping into step 3 is figure out if the gap between your present reality and this future dream that you have is actually surmountable. Is it doable? And I have a really specific example here. So I was talking about my YouTube channel. You and I started YouTube channels in 2020 because we felt like vlogging and just putting ourselves out there as brands, as people, was something that would hopefully benefit us. And not only that, but it was a chance for us to showcase what we were doing. And we wanted to share that with people. We wanted to lead in vulnerability and show people that you can do things that make you uncomfortable, because you and I aren't naturally people that want to be in front of the camera. We're really not. You and I would both love to be behind the scenes, I think 24/7, but we put ourselves out there in the vlog world on YouTube. And I have a goal. It's actually bigger than this, but I decided to sort of reduce it a little bit for the podcast. I have a goal of getting 100,000 subscribers. 100,000 subscribers.
That's a big number.
It's a big number. It's a big number. But here's what I do. I dream recklessly. I've always done that. And it's always paid off, actually. I've had disappointment, but the highs have been higher than the lows have been low. So I have 100,000 subscribers that I would love to get with my YouTube channel. How many do you think I have right now, Kevin?
I think I have 25.
Great.
I'm going to say you have 42.
That's really close. I have 47.
Dang.
I have 47. So there
That's pretty
is
good.
so if I'm analyzing my gap between my goals and my reality, I have a gap of 99,953 people.
That is a gap.
It's a gap, right? And so you can either look at that gap and you can take one of two directions. There's only two, and that's what's so beautiful about it. You can either say, I'm game, let's do it. I'm not freaked out by that number. I'm excited by that number. Or you can break, and it can be paralyzing to you. And there's no judgment to anyone who doesn't want to fill the gap or attempt the gap, but it's a choice you have to make. You know what I'm saying? And I think getting really realistic about it is important.
I love it. I think that's great. And I think that I think breaking it down that way is important. I like the idea of visualizing that gap and then deciding yes or no. And then if you decide yes, then you got to do it.
You got to do it. And like, obviously we could break it down into a million steps, but if you're going to do it, you have to have a plan. I think if you're going to decide that you want to do it, the fourth thing that I put down here, and that's not even a step really, but it's more just like something to think about it. But I wrote down, remember that success is promised to nobody. Like there's nobody out there that is promising you success. Like you could do everything right and still fail. You could do everything right for a really, really long time and fail. Like I think about one industry that I've dipped my toes into and came out of was the music industry. And I used to want to be a producer. I wanted to be the next Calvin Harris. And I basically kind of got into the water of the music industry and realized that you can do everything right. You can be super talented and you can put out music, and it just may never be good enough. And there are people that will be more talented than others that won't get a shot. There'll be people that just knew the right people. It's kind of chaotic. You know what I mean? So when you've dreamt and when you've considered your reality and when you've considered the gap between your dreams and your reality, even if you decide to go for it, you have to remember that success is still not promised. And I think when you realize that and you still jump in, it's pretty courageous.
I think so. I think people who are okay with failure are the most successful people
100%
on this planet. And it's an interesting concept to think about, but there's something to be said even about FinalVibe, Ivory, some of the other projects I've done in the past, some of the other projects you've done in the past. There's that moment where we sit down and we're like, are we going to do this? It would be so much easier to not.
So much easier.
What if it fails? But then there's also something to be said. Yeah, we know that. Let's do it anyways. Let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens.
And there's amazing stories of CEOs and
talk about Nick Bear. Because talk about him. Tell the people.
Well, Nick Bear it's interesting. I joined this YouTube lifestyle years later than most people. I did not ever watch vlogs.
Yeah, you weren't really into it until, was it this year?
It was during COVID.
Yeah, it was during COVID. Welcome.
Thank you,
brother.
It's, I tell you what, it is the most motivating form of content I've ever seen.
It's crazy.
There's a person named Nick Bear. For those of you listening, he owns a performance nutrition company in Austin, Texas. Less than 10 years ago, he left the military and started this company. And he vlogged every step of the way from his dorm in the military to today. And he wants a $100 million company, always has. Apparently, since the beginning, has said that's his goal, $100 million company. I'm pretty sure he's over $10 million as a company. And he said this past week they did 4 hours in sales, covered what they did all of last November. So his company's exploding. And it's amazing to watch this person okay with failure. Things are not going to go well. And not only are they not going to go well, but you're going to get to see it on all fronts, because the vlog is his personal life. Then he's got the company. Now he's got other people that work for him. He's got influencers that work for him. There's this huge web of potential failure, but he doesn't care, because by embracing it, there's also a huge web of potential amazing success.
Yeah, and we know for a fact that he was capable of overcoming failure, because, I mean, tell everybody listening how his YouTube channel started, or almost didn't start, because I think that's so. It's literally everything that I want this podcast episode to be in one simple anecdote.
Yeah, so Nick says in a video just a couple of weeks ago that we were watching that
and he's big time now.
Yeah, he's big time.
Big time Nick is saying this.
Yeah, big time Nick is saying that he released a vlog and it did terrible. And someone said, "You suck" in the comments.
Yeah,
And
got bad feedback.
bad feedback. He deleted it. He re-uploaded it, deleted it, re-uploaded again, I think.
Third time.
Third time. And then eventually just said, "Screw it."
Well, he still got bad feedback the third time.
And then,
But he kept it.
Yeah, he kept it.
He kept it.
After the comments. And just said, "Screw it. This is me. This is my life. And I'm going to do this." And it's an incredible story to look at that decision, that moment of this guy said, "I suck on my YouTube comments. Should I take it down? Am I a failure?
Mm-hmm.
No, screw that guy. I'm going to go." And
Yeah.
then now he's got, I mean, the whole world is
It's insane. If you don't know Nick Bear and you don't know BPN supplements, is it BPN supplements or is it just BPN?
BPN supplements. maybe.
BPN, yeah. So it's whatever. Look it up. It's bananas. Like it in any sense of the word, he is air quotes living the dream. You know what I mean? I'm sure it's not everybody's dream, but for a lot of people, it's a dream just to have built a company that you're passionate about, built a brand, and to watch it flourish. I mean, technically, that's what we would love to see happen with FinalVibe.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So Nick's living the dream, and it's just like, dude, what if he hadn't launched the YouTube channel? That blows my mind. Like,
Yeah.
you want to talk about perspective? Like, I'm gonna go down. So, like, I don't know why this came to mind, but I have notes here about Harry Potter. Will you entertain me, Kevin? Will
Yeah,
you
let's do it.
listen to my Harry Potter rant?
It's been a while since I've read the books, but I will listen and chime in if I remember it.
I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know.
Okay, great.
So, what I have heard about J.K. Rowling is that she actually started writing the Harry Potter books on a napkin in a diner.
I've heard that rumor as well.
And I don't actually care if it's true or not, because it could be true. And similar stories exist. But when you unpack it, it's kind of mind-blowing. I mean, can you imagine how easily she could have let go of that dream? I mean, it was on a napkin. She could have left the napkin on a table. She could have stopped after the third sentence. Or at some point, she could have thought to herself, this is silly. Why am I writing a story on a napkin? She could have put the napkin in her pocket. It could have fallen out of the hole in her jacket. There are just so many things that could have happened to this napkin. And I'm going to make this really personal to everybody listening. So this is me talking to you if you're listening. How many times have you had an idea, had a dream, and given up on it? How many times have you let the napkin fall out of your pocket? And how many, this sounds dumb, but how many Harry Potters have died on napkins and they never became everything they could have become? And like I said, I just started going down this wormhole and I was like, imagine the smiles of all the children who have been just touched and enamored by the magic of Harry Potter. My mother read me Harry Potter before bed. I have rich memories of my mom reading me Harry Potter. Imagine all the parents who went to the midnight showings when the movies came out, dressed up as witches and wizards, wands, flapping it around, staying up late, having fun. Imagine all the people who were employed by the movies. Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, Rupert Grint, all these people, their lives in some sense are semi-defined by their roles in this narrative, right? And it's all because she just kind of went for it and she didn't give up on the napkin. And I just wonder how many people have squandered something amazing because they just never did that thing that was in the back of their mind. It's kind of heavy.
It is heavy. It makes me think even one step further. I'm the type of person, and I have been in the past, and I like to think that I know this about myself and I'm working on it. I'm the type of person who would have missed out on my own Harry Potter because I didn't have paper, you know?
Yeah.
I would have looked at the napkin and been like, I don't have any paper.
Yeah.
And I feel like I would have been like, well, I need to have the right computer, the right program, the right pencils, the right flashcards to
The perfect environment.
the perfect environment. And I think about that a lot lately because I found myself doing this more and more where if I try to enter a new hobby scene or figure stuff out, I feel like everything needs to be perfect for me to be successful in this. I need to have whatever, but that's not true. And whether or not she wrote that on a napkin, for this instance, let's say that she did.
I fully believe she did.
I believe that she did as well. But she could have easily said, I probably should go buy a fancy notebook to put this fancy book in,
Right.
but she didn't. She just got started.
Just go for it. And like I have this other thought here where it's like I think a lot of people when they give up on their dreams or whatever, they just think that they've only hurt themselves or they've only let themselves down. And that's easy to deal with actually. If you feel like you've only let yourself down, not a big deal, right? But if you think, had she given up on that, all the kids that would have never enjoyed the book, all the adults that would have never enjoyed the book, like the theme parks that now exist.
It is
Like,
wild to think
it's
of how
crazy.
many people are employed, have been employed because of her.
By the imagination of one woman. And no, not everybody is going to be J.K. Rowling. No, for sure. Of course not. But it just illustrates the point that sometimes when you give up on your dreams, you might be giving up on more than just yourself. Like there are other people that could have benefited from you. And I think about that with my YouTube channel sometimes, just, because I do want to be specific and give people practical takeaways. But, my YouTube channel is all about, and it's still developing, but in my mind, it's all about giving somebody to look at who's just living this lifestyle of trying to be pretty fit, trying to learn about food, trying to manipulate food and exercise to feel confident in your own skin, but also not being super vain about it, super obsessed about it, giving yourself grace, just kind of walking the walk and being a person, being humanizing. That's what I want it to be. And like, imagine like if I give up tomorrow and the YouTube I posted last week is my last one. But there was a guy in 5 years who was going to watch a video I make in 4 years who was impacted by my video and changes his life and decides to lose 100 pounds. And because of that, he lives longer and he gets to go to more soccer games with his son or something like that. It's like, that's all meaningful stuff. And because I'm a dreamer, I can go there in my head and I can get motivated by that. But I just want to say to anyone listening, just remember that if you are giving up on your dream or you're just too scared to do the thing, it's not just you. You're not the only person who's taken a hit from that.
That's a great point. Friends, family, kids.
People you don't even know.
Yeah. Well, for sure. People you don't even know. That's a great point.
But Kevin, I think it's also important to talk about situations when people don't want to final vibe. You know what I mean? And I think it's important for us to say that that's okay. What do you think about that?
I think it is okay. I think it's important to be a person who can realize maybe at what points in life you can do some of these bigger things. And maybe you did maybe you did these steps and you did dream and reflect and rewind and you broke it down and you thought, I can't do that right now. And maybe it's because of the world that we live in or whatever it is. I think it's okay. I've said this before. I will say it again. I believe that Final Vibe is for everybody, but it is not for everybody all of the time. I mean, I feel like for me to get to a place mentally where all of these concepts made sense and started to click for me, I had not been there before in that headspace. And if you had approached me with this concept before I was there, I would have thought, nah, it's not for me. I don't really I'm cool with where I'm at. I like my own goals.
Content.
I'm thinking 1 year out. You want me to think a little bigger picture? I don't want to do it. So I don't think it is for everybody all the time. And I don't think you have to listen to this and come up with a final vibe at the end of it. But
no, you don't.
Yeah.
It's for sure okay if people don't want a final vibe. I just wanted to say that. I think sometimes I come off like I'm holding everyone to this expectation. I'm actually just really not. I'm really not holding anyone to any expectation. I think if anything, my expectations for everyone else are essentially, they don't exist. I don't have expectations for other people. And I was so energized from episode 27 when John said the same thing.
Yeah.
And he said, if you just come at life without expectations, I mean, you are just set up for so much more success. If for no other reason, just peace of mind and knowing that people don't owe you anything. People don't. But we put expectations on everyone and everything, and it's the source of almost all of our disappointment.
It's so true. And just a quick shout out to those listening. If you're wondering which episode to listen to after this one, episode 27, right before this, with John Green was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was outstanding, and his monologues are unrivaled at this point, in my opinion. So I think it's good to say that. I also want to say that I think there's a lot of power in still going through these steps, even if you come out of the funnel at the bottom, deciding that you don't want to do something, because I think a lot of people out there are living in a state of guilt, of a bit of regret, of a bit of a nostalgia that they've never had. You know, it's almost like a future nostalgia. They're longing for something that they've never experienced. But if you just go through those steps and you dream and you analyze the gap between your dreams and reality, and then you just come out the bottom and you say, I just can't do it. It's not right now. That's okay. I think there's a lot of peace of mind, that there's a lot of therapeutic value in accepting that you can't do it.
I would say so, 100%. It does go back, though, to what you said earlier about the what could have been. If you get to that point where you realize you do not want to pursue that same legacy as the guy from the YouTube vlog or the author from the book or the guy that's cool at the coffee shop, whatever it is, you've got to be comfortable being in a place where you're not longing for that. You can't do that. It's not healthy to do that. And that's kind of where I'm at in my personal life of I'm watching some of these vlogs and seeing some of these people accomplish some big things. And it's so easy to sit there for 2 hours and go, man, that would be so cool. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, of course it would be.
Man, that'd be so cool. But why am I not taking the steps to also do that if that's really what I want?
Yep.
And if it is what I want, let's do it. And if it's not, I got to quit that mindset of longing for that.
And I'll put it this way, if I'm just noticing this, but on the 4 steps, it's like you only get to dream for 1 step. And if you never move past the dreamer phase, you haven't done anything FinalVibe-esque. You've just dreamt. And that's cool. But I think if you wanna feel real ghosts in your life, real demons, just dream. Dream and never do anything about it. Or worse, dream and never consider whether or not it was possible. Because I think regret is one of the nastiest emotions. I think it's one of the richest emotions. Some of the songs that I listen to that hit the hardest to me are songs of people singing about regret. And I think it just transcends every person. Like, we all know what it feels like to regret something. Don't regret the one big thing that you might want to accomplish. At the very least, try or don't. And if you don't, I think what we're saying here is put it out of your mind and just move on. I think that's how to be an adult when you can't accomplish something that maybe you wanted to at some point. You know, just move on.
Yep.
And it's okay.
2 hours ago, I posted on the FinalVibe Instagram this
Yes.
quote that fits well from Earl Nightingale. I heard this when I was a kid, and I think about it a lot. Never give up on a dream just because of the time it will take to accomplish it. The time will pass anyway.
That's so good.
That last line is so true because there's so many times where I think, dang, 2 weeks went by since I said I was going to do that. And if I had done it, I would already have been doing it for 2 weeks. And it was the fastest 2 weeks. Just what a random example of something. But you know what I mean? Like,
I do know what you mean. And I've been so put off by meaningless entertainment lately. And I think our generation, maybe, this is just a prediction, I could be totally wrong. I think a lot of us who've grown up in this like super saturated entertainment environment where entertainment is at every corner of your life. Netflix, Hulu. I mean, I could name like 40 streaming platforms. Streaming platforms didn't even exist like 20 years ago. The internet, social media, it's insane. Like, I can only imagine what people who lived a century ago would say about all this entertainment. I think we're going to look back and regret it, man. I really do. Like, in almost every conversation I have with people, it's like, oh, what shows are you watching? And even when we banter with people at the end of episodes, it's like, what are you watching on Netflix right now? And it blows my mind. This is going to sound judgmental. I don't mean it to be, because I used to be this person and I'm still kind of this person. But just the fact that we go home at the end of a workday and we just bathe in entertainment, man, it just kind of grosses me out personally. Like, I don't want to be that guy. No judgment to other people. I don't have expectations for you, but I'm just saying, as somebody who's trying to pioneer the FinalVibe way of life, I'd rather do something that I'm passionate about. And then if I can look back in, 40 years and just be like, I'm just glad that I made the most of my time. That's all I'm really trying to say is,
Yeah.
will I be proud of the way I spent my time? We shall see.
Yeah, I think a lot of this entertainment came at a time when there isn't a lot of other things for us to worry about. We don't have to go hunting for our food. We don't need to do a lot of physical things to protect our family or whatever it is. Life has never been this comfortable. So I think it's easy to come home after work every day and just be like, whatever, dinner's in the freezer already. New Netflix show dropping. And I don't want to make it sound like you and I don't watch
No, of course we do.
or whatever.
Of
We
course
do
we do.
these things too, especially these days. But I think the point is you're 100% right. That will be an epidemic. Right now, all of our friends are having kids. A couple years ago, they were all getting married. There's going to be a social media wave when the first people who spent 8 hours a day on social media start passing away and start writing some deep thoughts from close to the end. And I wonder how much of it is going to be like, you know what? My screen time is pathetic compared to what I just realized actually matters.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I kind of wonder what it would be like if we could somehow look into the future and churn out like a data report of the ways that we spent our time. And we've never seen an era like this. We've never had to care less about our immediate needs, at least in the Western world, as Americans, which I think most people are listening are probably in that situation. And yeah, I mean, our needs have been met. And so now the question is, what do we do with the extra time? Now that we don't have to hunt for food, we don't have to gather for food, we don't have to spend time finding water. It just comes out of a faucet. You ever think about that? It's ridiculous. And I wonder, maybe this is a great way to segue into maybe the final portion of the podcast that we want to touch on, is that in terms of what you can accomplish, specifically in terms of the knowledge and the information that you have access to, it is insane. You were just saying it before we got on the air. The apps that you can download onto your phone for free. There are apps that you can teach you how to speak different languages. There are podcasts in different languages you could listen to. You could learn how to play chess. You could learn how to do calculus. You don't have to go to school for this stuff anymore. It's just out there for everybody. And I wonder what people of the past would say.
What would they do to have this
What would they
opportunity?
have done? What would they have given for that? And I want to bring this up because a few weeks ago, I texted you. I was watching this movie. I forget the name of it. It's super popular. It's about the African-American women who were extremely bright mathematical minds that were hired for NASA to basically get people into space, to orbit the Earth for the first time. And I couldn't wrap my head around this idea at the time while we were watching the movie, that at the time, getting into space wasn't really a thing. And at some point, somebody was like looking into the sky being like, let's put people up there. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. And now twice a year, there's a video on Elon Musk's Twitter account of a rocket ship, and people are like, we're
unfazed.
People are pumped about it, of course, but it's just funny to think about that. That moment was nuts. And now it's like, well, of course he's doing it. It's Tuesday.
Right.
Elon's sending a rocket to Mars.
Yeah, and I was just so blown away by like the complexity of the math. Like in the movie, it shows people sitting in this room just calculating formulas all day because it was life or death. Like the math that would get the rocket, enormous machine, into space, it just had to be so precise. You know, it's like nothing is that fatal in our lives right now. It seems to me, at least, my reality, nothing is that fatal. And I was so drawn to how important their cause was in that movie, and I was like, God, I think I texted you. I was like, man, I just want to be a part of something that special.
Yeah.
I think we're on the verge of losing a lot of ambition as like, this is going to sound dramatic, but like as a human species, honestly, I said species. What I meant to say was species. I think we're losing a lot of ambition because you don't have to be ambitious anymore. Because if you think about it, even 100 years ago, there were like really critical inventions that hadn't been invented yet that would have made everyone's lives really easy, really nice. And we don't have that anymore. And that's why thinking back to the people who invented electricity, discovered electricity, made these critically important inventions, they were driven by a need to do so. And I fear that we don't have that as intimately as we did then.
Yeah.
That being said, I still want to stay inspired, and I want to press forward. I want to press the envelope.
For sure. We'll tie it back to what you were brought up, the apps. And I think that's a good point, just to say that obviously we're tackling some of these issues live right alongside everybody listening. We don't know the answers to all these things. We're just trying to figure out, are we watching too much Netflix? That's the point of this episode.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. But going back to the apps thing, I think it's important to just remind everybody, a reminder to ourselves, especially myself, that excuses are so difficult to justify today. Because there are apps, like you said, to learn a language, to teach you, to entertain you. There are more productivity apps than you could count, tens of thousands. So, like, probably get organized one way or the other. I bet one of them will probably work for you.
I think I just want to say this because I'm having a hard time like nuancing this in my mind, but really all I want to say to people listening is just know that. Just know that we are in the most privileged era of all time. And and if you want to neglect these resources, that's fine. Make sure you really want to do that before you do it. Because I will be doing nothing but kicking myself if I, out of laziness, for me personally, it would be laziness, squander this opportunity. I don't want to be that guy. Not me. So let's wrap this episode up. Let's put a bow on the present. I just want to be really clear with people. For everyone who's saying, FinalVibe, I don't get it. Everyone's tapping me on the shoulder when they see me, like, hey, I saw this FinalVibe thing. It's cool, but I don't really get it. Let me clear it up one more time. FinalVibe is a lifestyle brand centered around legacy. If there's something that you want to be about in life, if there's a legacy that you want to leave, we're just saying start pursuing it today. Whatever that means for you, start pursuing it today. It probably has to do with excellence. It probably has to do with living a life well lived, but maybe not. And today we just wanted to give people some practical steps on just how to get going, analyzing their goals, thinking about the person they want to be, and that's it.
Beautifully said.
Keep it simple. Keep it straight to the point. Kevin, what if we do this? What if you, the lead on the podcast, what if you gave us what I like to call an outro for the ages? Would you be willing to grace us?
An outro
with such
for
a thing?
the ages. It's coming right up.
I think it is. And, if I know anything about editing music to any extent, it'll be sneaking in right about now.
Wow, there it is.
Love it.
Right on cue. Don't forget, folks, if you are looking to change your life and focus more on your own legacy, a FinalVibe membership provides you with immediate access to a community of people doing just that. So if you listen to this episode and you're thinking some of these things sound good, check out FinalVibe.com, click on the membership tab, and we'll connect you to our Slack group and send you some cool stuff. And the membership might be the best way for you to take the leap. Today's episode was produced by co-host Andrew White. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe to future episodes and tell your friends about us. We appreciate all of the support that we have received so far, and we hope to see you online. FinalVibe is on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at FinalVibe. And you can see our website, apparel, shop, blog, and so much more at FinalVibe.com. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you back here next Tuesday for another episode. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Have a phenomenal week.